family, our business is not going to go into the fourth generation. So it's really, I'd say preemptive. We're thinking maybe 5 years down the road, nothing is wrong right now, so don't go out selling us shares tomorrow. But the issue is on the horizon, and the way we've decided to address it is that just as every company's management thinks through its vision and goals and mission statement, the family also needs to think through the same. And the family is now going to work on its own vision, its goals, and the best way to address it is really how many other families have done it, is to write a family constitution. And when you write a family constitution, you go through all of the issues that the business currently faces, all of the likely issues that the business is going to encounter going forward, all of the political issues, whether families will only be managed by male members or female members, whose son comes in at what position, how many family members in the business, what is the sort of coordination role between the family and the board. And we are now in the process of what they call the commencement of the process of writing a family constitution, which is getting all of the stakeholders involved. And it is a complicated, kind of long-drawn process, likely to take anywhere from 6 months to a year, better done by including external advisors or consultants to come in and do it. But we're well on our way to doing it. A big part of the family constitution is the policy of setting a family council. And the family council is really like a board for the family. And this family council is supposed to then interact with all of the independent board of directors of the companies, independent in the sense that they're family members on the boards, but still the boards are run as professional boards of professional companies. And there has to be a very strong coordination between the boards of directors and the family councils. So in general, my sense is that the reason that this 15% number comes up, we know why it comes up, because we're seeing it, we're living it, and we think there's a great tool around it. Not when, you know, a lot of water has crossed the bridge, but really when the times are good is when you start planning on writing a family constitution and thinking of elongating the life of the family business, and maybe having or coming to a conclusion where you realize that there's a bigger goal that the family can achieve, and there's a bigger vision that the family can go after, which you just can't if you're actively managing day-to-day operations of a family business also. So our learning has been the creation of a family council, the creation of a family constitution, and then a way of working between the family council and the boards of directors of companies.
So ladies and gentlemen, one of the main hurdle or a cause for disintegration of the family business is lack of succession planning. The family initially evolved around the founder's image, founder's vision, and he gives the direction. But then later on we found that in the third and the fourth generation, the succession planning, lack of succession planning, unresolved conflicts, they lead into crisis and then disintegration. So I have a member of a Dawood family into the business in many directorship and chairmanship also. So maybe with the succession planning and little bit of how your business went.
I'm going to make a couple of comments before I get started. Referring back to the McKinsey report, it seems like a very negative report, but let me tell you that companies are living entities, and every living entity does have an end. To put it in perspective, family businesses tend to give higher rates of return, tend to last longer than non-family companies, and form the vast majority of any economy in the world, be it developing or developed. So something is going right. Yes, it has weaknesses, but something is going right. And that's an inherent nature of family businesses, managing complexity that thrives. My topic of succession planning is one of the key topics or key stumbling blocks that family businesses face. And that's primarily because family businesses have a very big problem of managing meritocracy that the business requires with equality that the family demands. And when the same person is leading the family as well as the business, that becomes a very, very challenging and difficult proposition to handle. A bit about succession planning. A lot of succession planning issues revolve around the business. As my friend Omar highlighted early on in his speech, family businesses are composed of 3 different segments: the family, the ownership, and the management. And all 3 have to have a governance system in place. So when we talk about succession planning, we're not just talking about succession planning for the business, we're talking about succession planning for the family, succession planning for the ownership structure, and then succession planning for the business. And you can't take them sequentially. You have to take them in parallel. And you have to have family members who understand that the business is not the only responsibility of the family. They are valuable assets. So I would propose that family members should sit around, and when they're having the first thing they should do is look at each other's CVs. We tend to think we know our family members, but we don't know our family members. Once we look at the CV, we see exactly what the intellectual capacity of the family is. When we look at the CV, we find out what the social capital of the family is. What people do you know? That is also value. What are your interests? That is important. And by harnessing those, by telling family members that they can provide leadership in many different forums, not just business, not just family, not just ownership. You make them aspire to a higher standard. And issues where should one son take over the business or the other son take over the business become easier to handle when you realize the business is not the only responsibility. That safeguarding ownership, safeguarding family unity, managing those governance structures are as important as managing a business. And once that realization comes in, succession planning, after you go through a parallel planning process of putting in different governance structures for all 3, that process becomes a lot simpler and conflicts become a lot less because people know they can get jobs which they are good at and not just the ones that are deemed important, i.e. business.
The family businesses is that there is a lack of professionalism, and professionals are not inducted into family businesses. And my friend here represents a group, packages, and we all know they have number of professionals in the business. And what he said to me in his brief is that learn to delegate, then micromanage. Delegate, but not abdicate. Professionals need time, space, and respect to operate. And these are some of the key areas where packages the family into the 3rd, 4th generation actually is practicing.
Thank you, Moeez Saab. As Moeez Saab said, I'm in the 4th generation now. The first generation actually was not in manufacturing, but was in a different business, but 3rd generation in manufacturing. And we realized this, or my father, I think, realized this about 25, 30 years ago, that in order to grow in size, especially with the complexity, it required different managerial skills. And all those competences, it was not possible would be all within a certain family member or even a few. So we started to induct in professionals, as I said, about 30, 35 years ago. I think what is important, as Moeez Saab mentioned, is to give the professionals the space and the time to grow. We, for example, in most of our businesses, packages, for example, I'm the CEO, but we have a COO who is a professional and is involved in the day-to-day operations. So that is totally delegated to him. Also, he acts as an interface between the family and the rest of the organization. Of course, it is difficult at times where, I don't know, my colleague is also sitting here,